Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we're going to be looking at changing the Vanda setup, and these are the Vandas that I've got which are still basketed. I wanted to explain to you a little bit about why I felt like I needed to change the setups for these guys and then do it. I've already converted some of my other Vandas, so these are the ones that are left. A couple of them are going to stay basketed, but first of all, excuse my voice, sorry, I just wanted to talk you through my feelings towards the current setup that I've had. So for about 6 months now, I've been growing all of my Vandas potted in baskets with a mixture of bark and sphagnum moss, and I've talked to you guys quite a bit about this. These guys are the oldest Vandas in my collection, and they've been basketed like this for probably about 2 years now actually, maybe a bit longer. And they do super well, and while it was just 2 Vandas, this is so easy to maintain. Just requires watering once a week, where I soak them for a couple of hours. In between that, in summer, sometimes I spray them down as well. You can see these guys are spiking at the moment actually. This is my Princess Mikasa, I think. And this one is my no ID blue, purple, whatever you want to call them, purplish Vanda. It looks quite like the Pachara Delight. And yeah, they do really well, and it makes my Vanda care routine much easier. However, while it works for these guys because they have very compact root patterns, it doesn't necessarily work for all Vandas, which I've discovered don't have such compact root patterns, and I will show you an example. This is one example, and this particular Vanda has had many root battings. So the main issue with this setup is that I physically have to pick the basketed Vandas up from this and carry them to the bathroom where they get their soaks every week, and that's getting a bit much. I'm knocking roots. Luckily Vanda roots are very resilient, and after you've knocked them they'll dry and then often push through a new root tip. But I just want them in a setup where I can actually easily maintain them without having to actually physically pick them up every single week and carry all of them around the house to water them. And this is something that I've been struggling with, and it's been making my life difficult. They've been growing very, very well. I think that the basketing with a media is an excellent method for growing them. It's just not fitting in with my lifestyle, unfortunately. It's causing me hassle, and if it doesn't work for me, then I'm going to try and change it and try something that's easier and that works for me better. If that makes me not the best grower, then so be it. But I have to do things that work for me in my environment, not things that are necessarily going to cause me more stress and issues, which ultimately is going to be bad for the orchids. So I've been talking to you quite a bit about growing Vandas over the last year, and I've shown you a few examples of my basketed Vandas and how well they're doing, and they're doing really well. I've previously tried semi-hydroponic setups for Vandas, and the Vandas I tried were young Vandas, thinking that they would be the most moisture loving and they would be the ones it worked for, and it didn't work at all. It was awful, and I lost so many roots. But what I lost were roots that were getting to the dry top layer. So I kind of thought maybe I should give it another go. So over the last year I've been experimenting, and I've put some of my Vandas into semi-hydroponic or self-watering setups, and I wanted to show you a quick example of one of those Vandas. So this is the Orchids Lawrenceae, so not strictly a true Vanda, an Orchids type, which falls into the Vandaceous alliance. And Orchids and Rinca Stylus do tend to be more moisture loving, so I kind of put it down to that. I put this one into a self-watering setup with leca when I first got it from my Schwerter haul, because I wasn't sure what to do with it and I was really worrying about repotting it. And I just want to show you something interesting, and I'm afraid I'm filming one-handed, so this maybe isn't the clearest, but see all those roots? And none of them are dead. I put this into a self-watering setup, and it had grown an extensive aerial root system before I got it, and the aerial roots have not died. Furthermore, we actually have new root tips. I'm just going to show you here, and this may not be the clearest, but This root is, as you can see, the vellum still white, so it's not absorbing water yet. That's a new root that's grown, I believe, which looks like it's branched off one of these older ones at the top and grown down in. And then some of these other ones that it already had and had formed as aerial roots have since branched in the self-watering setup with leca, forming new root tips. And we've got a few examples of this. In addition to this, it seems to be growing very, very rapidly, and we have lots of roots that are branching above the media, which are going down into it. And it's growing many, many roots. It's just growing extremely vigorously. Orchids are kind of known for being very fast growers anyway, but you can see that this root has branched where it was a bit bashed in transport, and branches there. It's also branched off following that under there. And lots of actively growing root tips. It's a really, really happy Orchids. And I'm really happy with its progress. So this one's done amazingly in self-watering with leca. And that one is living under my Gemma LED light, so it doesn't see any sunlight. It's just growing purely under my Gemma LED grow light, and it's doing really well. Obviously we haven't got flowers yet, but I only got it in summer, so we'll have to wait and see how it does, but I'm really happy with its progress. And that's kind of challenged my perspective on growing Vandas and how roots adapt and whether they can adapt or not, because I had always very strongly believed that roots adapt to the environment that they were grown in, and ones that had grown very long root systems aerially then struggled to adapt to semihydro or very moist systems. But in this case, I think this is quite a moist and airy system, and it seems to have worked really well. So I've been experimenting a little bit with this and growing other types of Vandas in semihydro or self-watering. And another orchid that I've been growing in semihydro or self-watering is the Orchids odorata alba. I've shown you guys this one before. It's a very, very vigorous grower, and I had it potted in a mixture of bark and sphagnum, and I've since switched it to set up with self-watering, and it's doing really well and growing really rapidly. I've obviously shown you guys my Rhynchus stylish giganteas before, which I grow exclusively in semi-hydroponic or self-watering setups with leca, and they do really, really well in this, and they've actually just started flower spikes. Just see in there. They do fantastically. And just to show you the root system again, got really great. These are the ones that I repotted with you guys, so I will link you to that video down below, but they've already established really well in their new self-watering setups. They're transitioning from semi-hydro. I've then also potted my Vanda suavis in semi-hydro with leca, and we've actually got a really nice root system in this one now. And more importantly, new roots forming and going down into the media. And the old roots didn't die. They've got a lot of algae in the pot there, unfortunately, which kind of makes them look not so good. But I'm really, really amazed at how well they've done in these setups and how rapid the growth has been since I switched them. So with that being said, I just decided to go for it and switch my other Vandas, because at some stage you can trial out little bits of an experiment and see if you think it's going to work, and it'll give you a good overall idea as to how viable the method is. But at some point you just need to go for it. If you're interested in trying to grow it that way, just go for it. And I've got established Vandas, I've got them in really good health, really amazing root systems. Now's the time, if I want to try it, to give it a go. So I have. And I've potted all my Vandas in self-watering setups with leca, and my thought process on this was self-watering tends to be a little bit drier than semi-hydroponic setups, at least in my environment. I've got these amazing pots which I got for £2.95, can you believe it, from InXS, which are massive, massive big self-watering pots with the gauge. And what I've done is I've modified these and drilled above the reservoir. They have the hard bottom reservoir and that the gauge measures, and above that I've drilled some flushing holes so that I can flush, and we'll see how this goes. Unfortunately, you can see here evidence of my root bashing again. Yeah, it's not really the best thing. But we've already got some roots that are kind of potentially curving back down towards the media, so I'm hoping they will go back in. Obviously, we are always going to get this sort of thing with Vandas, and this is really what I didn't account for. I kind of thought, like with my other Vandas, that they would go towards the media. No, they want to be aerial. That's absolutely fine. It's just not fine when I have to lug them about and move them every single week or multiple times a week in summer. And that's not as bad as lugging them and moving them every day, but it's still a bit much for me, I'll be completely honest. So we're going to change the setup, and I hope that I've explained my reasons well as to why I want to just get on and change this, which I obviously already have. I took the opportunity while I was ill this week to do quite a lot of repotting, which is why I wanted to make this video now. Even though my voice is still kind of getting there a little bit squeaky, I wanted to update you guys before too much time had passed, so we can get like a good start point to this experiment. And you'll notice that I've put the top layer of horticultural grit, which I found as an inert media doesn't wick. It's much safer for roots, it's much more root tip friendly. It forms like a barrier that the roots can happily tunnel into until they hit the lacquer, and that lacquer underneath will be a little bit more moist because it's not like a dry top layer of lacquer. So this inert media doesn't suck moisture from the roots in the same way that lacquer does. So I'm having a lot of success with putting this as a top layer, so I thought I'd continue that with the Vandas. And we will see how we go with this, guys. So what I wanted to do with you today, I've done quite a long introduction video to why I wanted to change the setup. And you can see that I've still got a few more Vandas to do, but that I'm mostly kind of done. These guys are going to stay in their baskets. They've been in the baskets the longest, and they don't cause me too much trouble. They're not unruly with their roots. They're quite happy to just tunnel their roots down into the media, and it doesn't really cause me any hassle. They grow really well, flower really well. So I'm just going to hang these off the edges of my new shelves, I believe. These guys still need to be potted up, and I will get on with doing that shortly. This one I might leave because, again, it's not really causing me too much hassle. I did try this in semihydro before. It was a young plant when I tried it. It was like not quite a seedling stage, but it was a very young plant. So I think we'll leave it until it's a bit bigger, to be honest, because it's finally doing well. It didn't do so well in semihydro as a seedling. And what I'm going to do now today is to take down my Vanda hangers. I know, sad. I spent so much time and effort getting baskets and arranging this in a way that I could hang Vandas, and it was lovely. It just involved me hauling Vandas every week. I'm going to take this down, and I'm going to put up a new set of shelves which I've ordered from Hartley's Direct, which are the same type of shelves as my other kind of orchid shelving. And I will do that, and I'm going to film the process of me putting the shelves up. So if anyone's struggling with the wire type shelving racks, they can refer back to this video. And I think my desert roses are actually going to go because I'm not doing so well with them. They're not orchids, and I need to make more room for orchid plants. So let's get on with putting the shelving up then. Okay, so we've cleared a little bit of space, and let's get started. And that is my Mars Hydro LED light all set up and ready to go. And my Vanda shelves now look a bit bare, don't they? I will put some footage up on screen of what they looked like before when they were hanging. and it's certainly given me more space for plants, but I'm going to try and give them their space because I don't want to block out that light. It's obviously positioned hanging from the curtain rail, and don't worry, I've tucked up the fabric there, so there's absolutely no danger of it getting hot on the fabric, and it's got plenty of air circulation behind the grow light. Just focus in, you can see the individual LEDs there, and hopefully you can kind of get an idea as to the kind of light level it provides. It doesn't really come across particularly well on camera, I've got to be totally honest with you. If I try and focus in a way that shows you the kind of light level, it's incredibly bright, and it's lighting the whole shelf area. It's really, really good, and I really like it. Just go up to my Cattleya in bloom there. So these were actually on the windowsill behind, where I've utilised that windowsill for my giant Vanda, which is kind of a bit of an ID issue that I had with Classen. So we're not sure until it blooms, but it keeps growing, and it's now absolutely huge. So yeah, it's doing really well, but it doesn't fit on a grow light, and it didn't fit hanging on my shelves. So hopefully it's got a little bit of growth room now on the windowsill before we try and figure out what to do with it next, which is going to be fun, isn't it? So I've moved some of my Cattleyas onto the shelf as well. Hopefully they'll do well. I should be able to tell quite easily because these ones do get anthocyanin coming up in highlight. It's the newest growth, which hasn't bloomed on my Mont Elegante. It's getting quite a bit of light from the grow light here, and obviously this is also supplemented with natural light. My Nepenthes are down here, and they're getting way more light than they were before on the top shelf, and they were doing well before, so I think they'll do well now. Again, my Vandas are spiking, which they were doing under the Gemma LED grow light, and they only had one Gemma LED grow light, and relatively I think that this is actually providing quite a lot more light because it's a larger light, it's lighting a much larger area, so I think that this will be better for them. And I've just left these Vandas hanging off the edges, and they're still getting lit very well. We'll see if we need to change that at all, but I actually think that that should work quite well because these guys grow their roots very nicely into the media in the basket there, so I think that they will do absolutely fine like this. She's producing some keikis as well. Yeah, so that is my kind of update on the Vandas and their new setup, and they're now potted, so we'll see how they do. I will keep you updated. I do want to reference the fact that Miss Orchid Girl has tried the Vandas in semihydro before, and it didn't necessarily work very well. In her climate, in her environment, her conditions. My initial trials with this have shown that it seems to be working very well, so all I can do is go off that and try it and let you guys know and record the process. I'm not advocating this as a grow method just yet. I'm saying that it seems to be working, so I'm trying it, and I will let you guys know, and we'll monitor it and track it, and then kind of see what conclusions we can draw after it's been going for a while, how they're doing potted. A couple of them we can still look at the root systems on, the ones in the smaller pots. But yeah, I've been growing potted Vandas for quite a while in organic media, and it's worked well, and I've switched to inorganic for some of them for sort of the last 6 months, and that's also worked well. So yeah, we will kind of see how this goes, and these ones have only obviously just been potted up, so it's a bit early to draw conclusions, but already getting some new growth popping through on the old dried roots, so they're happy with me not bashing them every day or every week, I think it seems, and I will keep you guys updated. Thanks so much for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to give it a like or subscribe to my channel for more regular orchid updates, and I will see you guys later. Bye!